Think about your relationships right now. Do you find yourself giving but rarely receiving support? Are you the one everyone relies on to solve problems, listen to their concerns, or offer emotional support? If your answer is yes, you might be headed toward compassion fatigue without even realizing it. Today, you're going to learn what it is, why you might be suffering with compassion fatigue, and 3 powerful tips to overcome it so you can create balance and peace in your life. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is what you've been asking about. So here you go. Again, when you email me, I listen and it gives me great ideas for episodes. So let's jump in. What is compassion fatigue? You might be asking yourself that right now. Well, so compassion fatigue it's more than just feeling tired. It's the emotional and physical exhaustion that happens when you've been repeatedly exposed to the suffering, the anxiety, the worries, the emotional needs of other people. So it's not just about, dealing with stress. It's about being overwhelmed to the point that you start to shut down emotionally, even if you don't realize it at first. Compassion fatigue can leave you feeling detached, irritable, and even resentful, especially when your own needs, keep taking a back seat. And compassion fatigue can happen to anyone who's consistently in a role of taking care of other people's emotional needs. So that includes, your partner, your kids, family members, your great Aunt Mary, if she's always bugging you, friends, coworkers. One of my clients has it around her boss. So it can even be your boss. And again, this is especially true if you're the person everyone comes to for support or advice. And over time, always being there for others can start to wear you down, particularly if you don't have healthy boundaries in place. Yeah, I'm going to talk about boundaries again today. So according to Dr. Charles Figley, he's really one of the leading researchers in the field of compassion fatigue. He says that compassion fatigue happens when caregivers, or again, anyone giving emotional support, begin to feel a diminished ability to empathize with others, leading to feelings usually of, helplessness, burnout, isolation, that kind of stuff. Again, it's like your empathy goes away. You feel like you're just sort of dead to other people's stuff, or it starts to happen that way. Because, when you're constantly attending to other people's needs, whether that's, again, at home, at work, in your social circles, or all of them, without taking care of your own needs, you eventually hit a wall. You, again, start to feel emotionally distant. I see with a lot of my clients, they even become really apathetic or indifferent toward the people they genuinely care about. So, you could snap at your partner for something small. You avoid friends because, you're too drained to care anymore. These are all signs of compassion fatigue creeping into your life. So let's talk about why you might have compassion fatigue, right? And again, a lot of the research originally was done with healthcare workers or caregivers. And they were originally identified as having compassion fatigue. And you can see that, right? So for sure, therapists could get that. I actually think therapists don't get it because we are trained in how to not take on other people's stuff. I mean, that's part of our schooling is all that, our boundaries, how to have boundaries. Like we're trained in all that. So really the compassion fatigue was often researched with, people in hospitals, nurses, doctors, caseworkers, social workers in those kind of settings. But you don't have to work in a hospital or be a first responder. They were studied a lot too, to experience compassion fatigue. If you're just someone who's emotionally sensitive, empathic, or, if you're even just like a fixer in your personal relationships, you are at risk. And I have had to use these words with so many of my clients, compassion fatigue, because they don't realize that's what it is. So many people, especially people pleasers or anyone who struggles with codependency, are really just highly attuned to other people's emotions, really kind of like hyper vigilant to what other people are going through, and end up feeling responsible for other people's happiness and their well-being. And that is a fast track to emotional burnout or compassion fatigue. I've talked about emotional labor before on the podcast. I will link to that. Again, for anyone new who's listening, I write a blog post for every single episode, which you can find on my website, abbymedcalf.com, under relationship tips and tools. So if you go to that page, that tab, or the podcast tab, you will, on the podcast page tab, you'll just find the podcast and just some what we call show notes, just some quickies about it, but all the links are there. And then if you go read the blog post, if you want, or you want to, maybe you have someone in your life who doesn't listen to podcasts, but you think they should read about this, they should know about this, you can send them it's a 10-minute read, or, versus and spending a half hour, an hour on a podcast listening. So, and everyone likes to learn in different ways. And it's because I love you so much that I do that I write everything up. Also, if you're listening and you don't want to take notes, you can go back later. You can copy and paste or reread something without listening all over again. So it's all there for you, and all the links are there. If you're watching me on YouTube, and please like and subscribe if you are. And you're missing my nice bright red shirt today if you're not watching me here. Below the video, I also link everything. I'm saying I like I do this stuff. Michelle, my amazing right-hand person, does all this. She's incredible. Everyone needs a Michelle in their life. Everything's linked below the video. So you can find it in a multitude of places. And I know if you've already heard me say this because you listen all the time, I know, I'm sorry, but there's always new listeners and people. And otherwise I get emails asking, where's the link? Where's the link? And this makes it quicker. So research on emotional labor, and again, you'll find all the research I talk about on those pages. The research shows, because that's really what you're doing. It's like an emotional labor. You're holding the emotional pieces of something. It shows that people who frequently manage other people's emotions, again, like therapists, teachers, parents, whatever, are at risk of exhaustion and emotional detachment. That's what the research shows. So in your relationships, this emotional labor can show up when you're the one, again, constantly managing conflicts, listening to complaints, just helping other people always navigate their emotions. It's exhausting. Yes. And I know a lot of women are thinking it's only women. Men go through this too. Absolutely women more than men, just because of the way, we tend to be socialized and raised, and the expectations we put on ourselves, but also from society. So, but I do have men who suffer with compassion fatigue sometimes. And, we all have a different kind of battery or how much emotional bandwidth we have. And, men and women or just different people can have different emotional bandwidths, how much they can handle. And we end up in that compassion fatigue where we feel like we can't handle another question or another issue or another anything. And there's that disconnect. In codependent relationships, I think this is even more kind of pronounced, right? Remember, codependency involves a pattern where you're overly focused on the needs of other people, often to the detriment of course, your own emotional and physical health. Your sense of self-worth can be tied to how much you're able to help or, fix somebody else. And the more you give, the more exhausted you become, leading to compassion fatigue. That it's all of a piece. And over time, this sort of chronic giving and sacrificing, it leaves you feeling like you have nothing left. Like what I see is people start to feel resentful, bitter, again, very disconnected. This is where I see affairs and things like that, or drinking, or, problematic drinking or eating or something else. Because again, that's the disconnect, especially when you're giving and your efforts aren't reciprocated or appreciated in the way that you want. What do I always say? You can't fill a glass from an empty pitcher, right? You can't do it. And eventually There's just nothing left to give. There's nothing left in there. And then you feel like crap because you're thinking, these are people I care about and I'm not acting very caring and loving. And you think of yourself as a caring and loving person, right? So that gets in conflict. There's big problems here. Yeah. So let's talk about how to fix it. So I'm going to give you 3 action tips today. Like, you know me, I'm always about what do you do? So here is a problem. Now, what do you do about it? And obviously, if you're working on codependency, you need to look at that. There's also fawning that can be an issue here. I did a whole episode on fawning. If you haven't listened to that, there's a fight, flight, freeze response, but also a fawning response, which is basically like people pleasing on crack. It's a trauma response that people have. I'll again link to that. All the places I said the links are. If you don't know about fawning, you should definitely listen. So you could have other issues that contribute to the compassion fatigue. And those, if you have tips and tools, which I've given you plenty of to deal with those issues, or if you read, those will work too. Okay. And some of these tools obviously will overlap, but, so I just want to say, like, if anything you're doing to work on your codependency or your fawning issues or your people pleasing or your fixing, all good stuff. Okay. All good stuff. But I'm just going to give you 3 things that I know from all my years of doing this and from the research really work when it comes to dealing with this, because you got to get out of it, right? You have to figure out another way of being in the world. So compassion fatigue can really sneak into your relationships. Okay. So there's 3 tips really that I think will help you regain balance in just like a really big, broad way. And tip number 1 is, should I do a drum roll on my desk? To set and hold your boundaries. And I'm not just saying this to sell more of my fabulous book, Boundaries Made Easy, your roadmap to connection, ease, and joy, by yours truly, Dr. Abby Medcalf. I wrote that book because every time I'm talking, I swear, every client I speak to, and I mean this, when I was giving them what they needed to do, it had something to do, whatever the problem was, it didn't matter what the problem was. My husband cheated. I hate my boss. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I do too much for others. I'm codependent. Whatever the problem was, the answer seemed to be boundaries. I swear. Over and over and over. So I finally wrote a freaking book about it. But so please go get it. The workbook, by the way, the Boundaries Made Easy workbook will be out in December of 2024. I don't know when you're listening to this. I'm sure we'll do something where you can, if you haven't bought the book yet, where you can get it as a bundle. And if you've bought the book, there's plenty in there. But if you want more, the workbook gives you more. And of course, most of the book is, or not most, a lot of the book is kind of restated in the workbook, obviously, but I do have extra chapters in there that I don't have in the Boundaries Made Easy book. And I took out a section of the book that wasn't really appropriate for the workbook. The last section of the Boundaries Made Easy book, I took out when I wrote the workbook, and then I added these other chapters. So again, however you want to do it. You can buy it as a bundle, you cannot, whatever, but I'm going to highly recommend you get it if anything I'm saying is hitting for you. But let's just talk about boundaries for a minute here. And boundaries, again, I talk about them all the time because they work. So I think it is the biggest contributor, what I see with my clients, and I would say the research backs me up. It is the biggest contributor to compassion fatigue is a lack of boundaries. And if you're constantly saying yes when you want to say no, or if you're always available to help others but never take time for yourself or rarely do, you're setting yourself up for burnout. Compassion fatigue is really just burnout. So, and there's been so much research on boundaries showing that they help, and I'll link to it. I'll link to the research showing that boundaries help people. Well, they'll help you manage your energy levels, maintain your emotional health, your physical health improves. It's all about avoiding overcommitment. It really will help you. So again, I've got, you could also get lots of free information on my website or my YouTube channel by putting in Abby Medcalf Boundaries or looking for keyword boundaries on the website. So it's for free. If you don't want to spend a penny, if you're like, Abby, I'm not giving you any money, that's fine. go look there. There's plenty of free information. I have so much of it. So, but start doing it. And I will just say for now, start practicing setting maybe some small boundaries, right? When it comes to the helping of others in this way. So you could set aside specific times in your day when you're available for others and protect your personal time more fiercely, right? When I get home from work, there's some personal time I have that I protect very fiercely. I have been giving to people all day. I've been listening. I've been attentive. I've been right there. Now I'm getting paid, so that's good. But I'm doing the podcast too. I'm writing my weekly love letter. If you're not signed up for that, I don't know what you're waiting on. It's fabulous. People love it. I don't sell anything in my love letter, just for the record. It's once a week and it's just meant to inspire you. If you want to get the love letter, it's just a little story I tell every week. If you want to sign up for that, you can go to the website and there's a love letter tab right at the top. I'm thinking I'm changing the name to Love Bites. I think in January I'm going to change the name to Love Bites. I know. Isn't that cute? Because I love food. Can we talk about food? No. All right. I'm going to stay on topic. But I'm a little hungry. I'm not going to lie. Okay. So, but I'll stay focused. All evidence to the contrary. That's why you're here with me, because you love me. All right. So, but do you hear what I'm saying? Like having those even small boundaries, little ones like, after 5 o'clock, I don't answer the phone, or after a certain time, or at work, if everyone's always coming to you at work, you can have times where you have quiet time in the office, you put your headset on, you make a boundary, however you do that. And saying no is often really uncomfortable for people at first, but remember, taking care of yourself is not selfish. Okay. I have done episodes on healthy selfishness. I have done, again, episodes on how to set boundaries. And I'm going to give you a reminder right now. It is not a boundary when you say to people, I don't take personal calls I don't take calls after 7. Okay. That's not a boundary. It's you saying what you'll do, but the boundary is not actually taking the call if they call after, or if the next day they say something snarky like, I called you last night, I really need to talk, and you didn't answer. You say, oh yeah, remember, I don't talk to people after I'm burnt. What I tell people is like, you don't want to talk to me at 7 o'clock at night. I'm tired. I don't have all the juicy, wonderful lovingness left. I'm done. This is me time. That is Abby time. So when I'm going out to dinner with my girlfriends, they know we have to go out to dinner early. I go to bed. I'm like in bed at 8:30 or 9. So at 7:30, I'm not, I used to be a party animal. I used to tend bar, be out all night. I was a night owl. I was fun. Not anymore. Okay. That's not, obviously if there's a special occasion, I'll keep myself up. If Gary and I are on vacation, I stay up later. But I mean, in general, day to day, week to week, I'm in bed. So I'm not effervescent or fun at 8 o'clock because I'm tired. I wake up really early and this is my schedule. So if someone says something to me, I just remind them, or I kind of joke. I'm like, oh, you don't want me at 7:30. Trust me. I had nothing helpful to say at 7:30 last night, but I can talk today at 11. I'm free at 11. Do you want to chat then? And what I find is that sometimes the other person will know I'm busy. I'm like, okay. Do you see? It's like, so when I'm busy taking time for myself, which is still busy, or my time is booked in whatever way, I don't have to explain myself why my time is booked. It's booked. So, but then when the other person, so I'm supposed to go out of my way for you, but you're not going to go out of your way for your need, for the thing you want. You're the one who wants to talk, but you only want to do it on your terms when you're available. That's bullshit. That's crazy. And then they're calling you selfish. No, my babies. No. They're the ones being selfish. Think about it. You should never work harder than the other person at their issue. I will say that again. That is like the number one check mark for codependency. When you're working harder than them, you shouldn't be working harder than them. So if they really need to talk to you because they have a big problem, you shouldn't be the one giving up your time, time that you have earmarked for, taking a bath. They should be giving up their time, right? Because you're still going to give up some time, right? You're going to give up this time that you are free when you are free, which is very kind and lovely of you. So they're the ones who should sort of sacrifice more, not you. But do you see how that happens? They'll turn it around. Whenever, and I'm going to say this right now with so much love in my heart, whenever someone calls you selfish, they are projecting 100% of the time. I'm going to say that again. And when you call someone else selfish, I want you to think about it. Are they, I know right now you're like, screw you, Abby. You should never, don't call people selfish. It's usually you that are being selfish. And when they call you selfish, because think about it, when people call you selfish, do you ever think you're really being selfish? Don't you have lots of excuses for why you are the way you are and what you're doing? So why are you calling other people selfish? Because they feel the exact same way, trust me. And it only creates distance when you do that. It doesn't create understanding. It doesn't create connection. It doesn't create anything. So get that word out of your language. And for sure, do not own it when other people say it to you. It is generally them. So don't go right to guilt and shame. It is generally them who are being selfish, like in that situation I just gave you. And by the way, I don't have any friends in my life who do that anymore. I've gotten rid of all those people. But I'm just telling you. I've had, I say with love, clients call me and I'm like, here's when I'm available. They're like, well, I'm only available after work. And I'm like, I'm not. Those aren't hours I see clients. If you want to see me, here's the hours I see people. And here's when I'm available. And I've had people get very angry at me. Well, what do you mean? Like, not everybody could take off during the day at work, or not everybody is off that early, or whatever, And it's like, I don't want to see you at 8 o'clock at night when you're burnt out, and you don't want to see me then. Again, I'm no good at 8 o'clock at night. And for anyone who's going to therapy late at night when you're exhausted, or 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock, I really want you to start thinking that through differently. There's a way to find time in your day when you are more fresh, when you are more, especially if you're not going every week to therapy, I would say, but I'd like you to think about it more. Is there a way? Since the pandemic, people have gotten better with this, but I've been this way for years. I was this way before the pandemic. I just like, you're paying such good money to meet with me, and you're going to wait till you're burnt out and exhausted and everyone gets the best of you. We're not going to have a session the way we could. We're not going to be as productive as we could. I think sometimes that's why people are in therapy for so long, because they're just so tired. And think about it. Everything's negative at the end of the day. Sometimes you're exhausted. It's hard. Like if a therapist is giving you a good tip or something, or some sage advice, you're probably not taking it in because you're like, everything sucks. I'm exhausted. You're not doing what you could. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying it's a waste of time if you go to therapy later. Some of you really like the later times. You're more night owls, all fine. I'm just saying in general, think about it. Okay. Tip number 2, check in with yourself as much as possible when you're dealing with compassion fatigue. I know. You're like, Abby, are you talking about mindfulness again? Are you trying to call it something else? Why, yes, I am. Thank you very much. When you're in the habit of caring for others, it is easy to lose track of how you are feeling. There's lots of research showing that regular self-reflection can significantly reduce stress and improve anxiety and improve your emotional resilience. Okay? So, I'm going to tell you, download my mindfulness starter kit, which is free. It's free. Search mindfulness on my website or on YouTube with my name, and you will find tons of free resources for yourself. Any book I have written has a chapter on mindfulness. And what I always tell everyone, set a reminder on your phone for 3 times a day. When it goes off, when that reminder goes off, you're going to ask yourself how you're doing emotionally. That's it. Just take a moment. I don't care if you're online at the grocery store when it goes off. I don't care if you're in the middle of working on an Excel sheet when it goes off. I don't care if you're in the middle of chatting with your kids when it goes off. Just stop for a second, ask yourself how you're doing emotionally, and identify 3 feelings you're having in that moment. And remember that fine, good, and okay aren't feelings, okay? And these check-ins, again, we know this from the research, will help you recognize when you're nearing the edge of compassion fatigue. When you're saying yes when you should say no, when you're feeling resentful as you sit there listening to someone sharing their stuff, when you'll be in your moments where you can act, not react, where you can be more in charge of you. It's huge. And once you identify your feelings, I want you to take action. So if you're identifying, I don't know, you're at the grocery store and you're in line checking out groceries and you realize your little reminder goes off. You're like, oh my God, I'm feeling anxious. I'm thinking about the 40 things I have to do when I get home. I'm angry. I'm thinking about how much I'm angry at my partner because I'm the one in the grocery line and they were supposed to do this instead of me. I don't know what you're thinking about, but but those are your thoughts, by the way, your feelings. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling lonely. Maybe you're a little hungry. Never a good idea at the grocery store, but you know what I mean? And then I want you to think, okay, I don't want to stay in these feelings, right? So take 1 minute, take 10 minutes, take 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and take some action. So if I was online at the grocery store and I realized, oh my God, I'm feeling a little anxious, I'm feeling maybe a little hungry, whatever it is. So then I check out, I bring my groceries to the cart and I set the timer on my phone for 3 minutes and I just close my eyes and I breathe. Maybe I eat a little something or make sure I'm hydrated, right? Maybe you go for a walk, you meditate, you journal, just close your eyes, listen to a great song on the radio and reset, right? Maybe set a timer for 5 minutes and play games on your phone. The key is you want to pause long enough to listen to your own needs and to respond to them. Okay? Very important. Don't just be like, oh yeah, you're anxious and keep running. You need to take care of yourself in those moments. Again, that's how we combat compassion fatigue and feel better in our days. And then the third tip I'm going to give you is to shift your perspective, something I also talk about a lot. It's a big part of combating compassion fatigue is realizing that it's not your responsibility to fix everyone else's problems. You can be supportive without taking on the weight of someone else's emotional baggage. There's been a lot of research on emotional regulation, and all of it, again, I'm going to link to all of it, really supports the idea that creating emotional distance from people's issues will reduce burnout and increase your well-being. Okay? And I'm even going to give you a way to do this right now. Right now. One way to do this is by just shifting your perspective from being a rescuer to being a supporter. Okay? Yeah. So instead of trying to solve other people's problems, ask yourself how you can offer support without sacrificing your own well-being, without doing anything. So this could be just offering offer a listening ear but a set time limit. Sometimes I get on the phone with someone and I'll say, okay, I got 15 minutes, go. Do you know what I mean? Like, let me hear, I just want to check in. I didn't have a lot of time, but I wanted to give you some time because I know you're hurting right now, whatever. Or encouraging someone to find professional help rather than taking on the emotional labor yourself, right? I talk about it a lot. Remember, empathy, not sympathy. Sympathy is what we want to do things for other people. Oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, can I come pick you up? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I buy you that? Can I get you this? Can I cook for you? That's sympathy. And no, empathy, which is way better anyway, is not doing for other people what they can do for themselves. It's teaching them to fish instead of giving them a fish, right? Which is all the opposite of codependency. It is when you connect with the feeling, but you don't connect with the situation. When you connect with the situation, you get into fix-it problem solving, right? Oh, you're having trouble with your boss? Well, have you tried this? Have you done this? Maybe I could go here. I could talk to you about your boss. No. When it's empathy, you're just connecting the feeling. Oh God, yeah. Oh, it sucks to feel so helpless when you're in those kind of situations. But mean it. Whatever you're saying, don't be disingenuous. Just, it's really it's not putting yourself in someone else's shoes necessarily. It's the emotional shoes. It is the emotions. Really think about a time that you felt helpless. You felt out of control in a situation, whatever they're feeling. And just think about that and connect there. Don't tell your own story. You don't need to do that. Oh yeah, that happened to me when I was, no, you don't need to do that unless they ask. But you could say, I've been through stuff like this myself. It's the worst. That's it. And then you shut up, and then they'll talk some more, and then you can really listen, and you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to offer. Remember, I always say don't sack. Don't offer suggestions, give advice, or criticize. You can ask them some more questions. Is there anything you think you can do? You know, if there was one thing you could do right now to move the needle, what would it be? You could do that. Let them think of, don't suggest anything. Let them think of their own good solutions, right? And again, and I have episodes on how to be supportive instead of rescuing. So I'll link to those. I have episodes on empathy. I'll link to that. Like all of it'll be there. You always want to come probably afterwards because I got links to so much good stuff. And I'll just wrap up by saying this, compassion fatigue isn't just something, again, that happens to like people who are in a certain profession. It's something, it can affect anyone who's constantly in the role of caretaker, listener, problem solver in any of their relationships. But again, the good news is that if you set boundaries, if you're mindful and regularly check in with yourself, if you shift that perspective from, away from fixer, you really can protect yourself from this compassion fatigue. You can create, healthier, more balanced relationships, of course, including the one with yourself, which I always talk about. So if you've been feeling drained, irritable, disconnected in your relationships in any way, take it as a sign. It's time to put yourself back on the priority list. You deserve as much compassion and care as you give to other people, right? Fill the pitcher. Fill you. It's okay. What do they always say? Put the mask on if you're flying in the plane, and the oxygen masks come down, put them on yourself first, and then you can help other people. That's really what I want you thinking about. So I hope today's episode was really helpful. I want to remind you all that I am starting a Patreon in January of 2025, where you will have more access to me and I will have more access to you, where we can take all this stuff that we've been doing on the podcast, like the next level. So yeah, no ads, but also time with me. Time where you can ask more specific questions, where you can really maybe, feel like you're in a community with other people, where we can talk about a podcast episode, and you can like be very specific about like, well, I heard you say this, how do you do it? Or give me more on how I would do that. We're really going to have some fun there, I am saying, because I feel like we can really connect on a different level, which I'm very excited about. What I do now is sort of talk out into the ether, right? I'm sitting you see me if you're watching, I sit in my little office and I do this, and I'm picturing you in my head while I do it, but it's just me here alone. And so I can't wait till I feel like I can, not feel that way. You feel my community around me. The other ways I feel you around me though right now are when you like my videos, subscribe, follow me on TikTok or IG or Facebook or wherever you like to be. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's lots of ways. Comment under the videos. I love it. Comment nicely. Send me an email with something you'd like on a future podcast. If you've read my books, please leave a review. If you liked it, if you could do it on Amazon. And if you like the podcast, please, please, please leave a review. Even if you download on Spotify, you can go to Apple and leave a review there. That would be amazing because Spotify doesn't let you leave reviews in the same way. I think you can rate it. I think that's how it works. But when you leave reviews, other people can find me. You know how it is. So, and I read all the reviews and I love them. So please, please, do things. We're in a relationship together. I'm giving to you, you give to me. That's how it works. We can support each other and we can help create world peace by getting the message out. That's what I'm doing here. That's why I've been doing this for so many years. Please, please be part of that. If everyone, share the episode with someone you think it would help, do that. Or if they don't listen to podcast episodes, share the blog, just help others feel better. Help others have the tools they need to be happier in their lives. And I'm telling you, because I feel better all the time. I love how I feel when I know I've helped someone. You're going to feel the same way. All right. I love you so much. So happy you're here with me. Have an amazing week. Oh, feel good. Be with yourself. Love yourself. Connect with yourself so you can connect with others. And I'll talk to you real soon.